The PC37X gaming headset from Mastrop and Sennheiser brings you into the game with an open-back design featuring angled drivers for pinpoint locational accuracy. Be heard clearly through the fold-down noise-canceling mic and enjoy the long-lasting comfort of large plush velvet ear pads. Now available in an all-matte black finish, so the headset looks as good as it sounds. For more info, click the link in the description and catch the drop before it's gone. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you're all doing well. Today we are assembling March's PC of the month, which is going to be a micro ATX Threadripper machine. Very excited. It's actually my first Threadripper build in that form factor, so I'm super stoked. And we have an all-star lineup of hardware today. You guys should be very excited because it's going to be a treat. I think it's going to turn out just fantabulously. So I'm just going to start from the left, my left, and work my way to the right. It's going to be completely out of order. All the parts are shuffled around here on the table, but let's just dive right into the hardware we're using, starting with the Fractal Design Define Mini C. This is a micro ATX tower, of course, and it's a tried and true option. I really love this case. It's got a tempered glass side panel, plenty of healthy airflow, a nice minimalistic design, and a very smart internal layout as well. It does come with some white accents on the inside, including some of the fan blades and expansion slots. We're actually going to try to black out the whole system for today, so I'll be borrowing some parts from a Meshify C, also from Fractal Design, and swapping them out for some of the ones in here so we can get a nice clean black aesthetic. So super pumped about that. We've also got a WD, 2TB WD black hard drive down there. Ties right in with our black theme, of course. So that's just going to be for backup media and storage and whatnot. We'll be pairing that with a 256GB OCZ RD400 from Toshiba. This is an M.2 NVMe SSD for our boot, obviously, and frequently used applications. Now, one of the big stars of our show is the Motherboard, the X399M Tai Chi from ASRock. This thing is fully loaded for its size, to be honest, and there's really hardly anything compromised here. Maybe apart from the DIMM slots, we're only getting 4 DIMM slots as opposed to 8 on a traditional X399 ATX motherboard. But for the most part, this thing is equipped with triple M.2 NVMe slots. We've got 3 full-size PCI Express slots. There's 802.11 AC Wi-Fi, and just a bunch of other stuff, dual Intel gigabit LAN and whatnot. So very excited to be using this board today. Now, cooling a Threadripper CPU is very important, so I've employed the Enermax LickTech 280mm AIO, which is supposed to be a fantastic choice for the STR4 socket, especially since the copper block that's being used here provides full coverage on the Ryzen Threadripper IHS. So very excited to be using that. Also, I'll be swapping the fans out for a couple Fractal Venturi 140mm fans. These are the static pressure optimized ones. Nothing against the included fans here. I'm sure they work just fine, but this sort of matches the overall design language of the case we're using just that much more. Of course, everything's Fractal Design. And then we've also got a 32GB kit of Trident Z RGB from G-Scale. This is DDR4, 3200 speed. This is probably a $400 kit of memory alone, and we're going to be able to fully populate the DIMM slots in our micro ATX motherboard there. So excited to use that as well. Unfortunately, LEDs can't be black, so I don't know. We might just have to turn them off entirely, which kind of wastes the point of an RGB kit, but whatever, we'll figure it out somehow. Moving on to the other star of the show, we have a Ryzen Threadripper 1950X, which is of course a 16-core, 32-thread behemoth, and I think the last time I actually touched this CPU was with the Yacht PC that we filmed many months ago, so very much looking forward to putting it in a build today. It definitely is worthy of being utilized in some fashion. Powering our system is the Dark Power Pro 11 power supply from Be Quiet. This thing's an absolute beast. It's very well designed, 80+ platinum certification, 850 watts. It has a very silent Wing series fan built right in, and it's also got some really nice black cables. But just to step things up a little bit further, we're actually going to be using some of these extensions from CableMod. These are their Pro Series cables, and I really like how these turned out. I actually configured these with their custom configurator online, and you can pretty much customize any color, length, cable comb color that you want. So there's a lot of flexibility here, and the quality is really top notch. So if you guys are at all interested in checking these out, I'll put a link in the description below. Last but certainly not least, we have our graphics card, which is the Asus Strix Gaming RX Vega 64, which is one hell of a card with a very nice custom cooler from Asus made in-house. And it very well might be one of the last Strix gaming branded AMD cards we see if NVIDIA's GPP is really going to take effect, but of course that's a topic for another video. I guess we'll just call this a limited edition card in the meantime. It makes me feel fancy, but that's pretty much it. That's our all-star cast of hardware for today's build. It should be pretty wild. I can't wait to see how it turns out. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and start building. Alright guys, here we have the build in all of its glory. It's looking pretty darn nice. I would have liked to show it off to you guys with all white LEDs. I thought that would have been really cool, but unfortunately there's some issues with the Trident Z RGB software not playing nicely with Asus Aura Sync, and unfortunately I couldn't get both of those apps loaded up simultaneously to fiddle around with the LEDs, so maybe that's something we could revisit in part 2. But altogether, looks very nice. You might have noticed that we did some funny business with the tubing here. We actually tied it down with a zip tie, strapped it to the top of the case, routing it through a couple of those ventilation holes, and it's just a little bit lengthy for a case this size, and so the tubing was initially rubbing up against the tempered glass panel, which doesn't look all that great. Was easily able to fix that with a little zip tie there. You also might have noticed that the GPU is getting awfully close to our radiator, which is why we have the fans mounted on the other side of the steel frame. Unfortunately, that puts it the blades much closer to the front panel. There's still a bunch of breathing room there, but significantly less than if we were to mount the fans on the inside of the frame. So we'll do some thermal testing in part 2 to find out if that's really an issue. If it is, then I do have an idea on how to solve half of the problem, quite literally, is basically just taking the top fan and mounting it on the inside to the left of the radiator. Technically, we could do that because that fan will actually be above the GPU and it won't cause any clearance issues. And then finally, we did have to remove the drive cage in order to get that radiator installed, which meant the only place we could really mount our WD Black was at the floor of the case. There are native mounting points for a 3.5-inch drive in this case for that, but it was kind of being blocked off by the power supply since it is so lengthy. It's a huge unit. So what I ended up doing was just threading a couple screws through the bottom ventilation holes of the case, and that actually cinched down the hard drive just fine. So it doesn't look like it's going to pose any long-term issues, but just one of the little quirks that you have to deal with when building inside of a small package with all this like high-end hardware. But overall, very happy with how it turned out. If you guys have any thoughts or feedback on what you see here, feel free to blow up the comments below, toss a like on the video if you enjoyed it. You can also follow me on FLOATPLANE for $3 a month. If you want to catch all my videos a week early without ads, I'll drop a link for that in the description below. Apart from that, guys, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one, and I'll see y'all in the next video.